And good evening. Welcome to Talktoberfest 2025. You're with Vince Coakley. Also on the other end, we got Brett Jensen. Welcome aboard. And we are glad you're here for an hour or so of conversation as we talk about anything you would like to talk about. Brett, good evening. Welcome to the broadcast.
Welcome. It's good to be here.
So I understand you are not here in the sprawling metropolis of Charlotte, but tell us about your travels.
So I am in Wilmington. I just got to Wilmington, checked into the hotel about 30 minutes ago, and I'm going to be here for a couple of days. I had a very unique and exciting opportunity that I can't turn down, and it's just weird things happen to me all the time, Vince, either good or bad. Just weird things my entire life always happen to me. When I was 24 years old, somebody said my life was a sitcom, and it's sort of has never changed. So I'm shopping the other day.
Excuse me.
Wow. So I walk into a men's clothing store about a month and a half ago, and in Charlotte, and I happen to be wearing a particular men's designer brand. The name of the brand is called Johnny O. Okay, Johnnnie, and then O apostrophe. And I just happen to be wearing that blazer, and it's my favorite name brand for men. And so it just so happens that in the store was the head of all design for Johnny O, just purely by coincidence. Just happened to be there. And he sees my jacket, my blazer, and we start talking. And he's like, then he introduces himself. Well, I don't know, maybe some of the people in our audience have heard of the clothing brand called Peter Millar. Well, this guy founded Peter Millar, sold it, and then joined Johnny O as their lead designer. And Peter Millar is one of the top golfing brands in the country as well. And so next thing I know, we're talking, and he invites me to the weekend down here in Wilmington because they're big in golf. And the founder of Johnny O, Johnny O'Donnell, excuse me, and who is the brother of the actor Chris O'Connell.
Oh, yeah.
It's his brother, Johnny. That's where they get the Johnny O. It's Johnny O. So the founder and the former founder of Peter Millar and all these major, because they're big in the golfing world, all these major YouTube golfers that have like millions of followers, they've brought them in from all over the world for this weekend here in Wilmington, and they invited me to be their personal guest because I knew who the golfers were. I just happened to be wearing their name brand sports coat at the time when I saw them. And so I'm down here going to be hanging out with the top golf influencers from all over the world with the founder of Peter Millar and the founder of Johnny O. And so it's wow. So I took a couple of days off, and here I am. It starts tomorrow. The whole event starts tomorrow, and it's like a two and a half day event. And I'm pretty geeked out about it, to be honest with you.
That's pretty awesome. Well, I'm definitely excited for you. I'll have to make sure I endeavor to get your autograph too when you get back.
Yeah, that's assuming I come back.
That was pretty good, man. No, that's a terrific opportunity. It's kind of cool when you have those situations where you just run into people. I think I can. It's probably a good time as any to share a similar experience I had. You probably know I'm a big lover of jazz music. And I just happened to be, I was at the airport, just walking by a gate, and I looked over and I thought, that looks like Bob James. And so I approached him. Bob James, he's the one who did the theme for Taxi.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And he's worked with who knows how many different people. And
by the way, real quick, that was once called the saddest. It was called the saddest opening music for a sitcom ever.
I could definitely buy that. It is kind of sad sounding. But I ran into him, and I think he was profoundly flattered that I recognized him. So we must sit there and talk for like 15 minutes or so. He gave me his email address, and So yeah, it was so cool because it's one of those chance encounters. I mentioned this on the air too because my thought was there are certain people I would love to meet before they pass away, and James would definitely be on the list. He's in his 80s. He's
Oh,
like 82, 83 years old. So I was very encouraged by that. So yeah, when you have those opportunities, seize them, right?
right. I mean, Vince, my entire wardrobe, basically my closet, is either Peter Millar or Johnny O. And to see the founder of each to
That's amazing.
allow me to come in, and they're a global brand. Like they're not just like they're oddly enough, both are based out of the Raleigh area because the original founder of Peter Millar, Chris Knott, or he's one of the founders, he's from the Raleigh area. And so he started
Right.
Peter Millar and it was headquartered in Raleigh. And then he sold it, did his non-compete, that ended. And then Johnny O hired him as their lead designer. And now they moved their, I think, Eastern headquarters to Raleigh again. And so that's why they chose Wilmington, because both are headquartered here in North Carolina. So
That's pretty amazing.
by the way, so I want to say this real quick to everyone listening. So Vince texted me the other day. Vince goes, "What do you want to talk about?" And I said, "Anything but news or politics." Because we talk about that 5 days a week in our real jobs, right? I mean, that's what we do. And there's probably not a lot that you don't know how Vince feels or how I feel in past certain events. And so I said, "Vince, let's just do a regular podcast and just have a nice conversation, and whatever comes up, or whatever people ask, they ask." So that was my theory. Vince may have had a different theory. So
No, it's absolutely cool. And we do a shout out to Joel Down, who has sent a message here. Hope you are both doing well. We are. We are glad that you were aboard, by the way. We can definitely do a non-news item. I have to tell you, I was quite surprised. Did you happen to watch the game today or listen to the game?
So I did something I probably shouldn't have done, but
You were
I
watching
had
while you were
my
driving.
phone. I had my phone on the dashboard driving the 3.5 hours to Wilmington while watching the game. True story. Not even joking.
I can believe it. I can believe it. Well, tell me, you were watching. I did not watch at all. All I can tell you is maybe 15, 20 minutes ago, I thought, well, let me see how they were doing. The funny thing about this, was that last week when they, or 2 weeks ago when they won?
No, they won. They won last week they won last week as well because they beat Miami last week.
And I remember looking and I saw that they were behind in this game. It was like, I don't know, was it 15, 16-0, whatever it was?
17.
Thought, well, the Panthers are losing again. And it was like the next day I looked and saw they actually won. So I was quite surprised to look and see what were the things that were, I guess, stood out to you about the game today as you were listening, as you were watching when you shouldn't have been watching, Brett Jensen?
Well, there's two things. So the backup running back, his name's Rico Dowdle. He came here as a backup, and he was going to be backing up the running back Chuba Hubbard. Well, Chuba Hubbard got injured. So Rico had to play last week. And he ran for an incredible 200 yards rushing, which just does not happen. And so it's like, okay, it's a fluke. Well, he gets out there today and he runs for like another 175 yards and caught like 50, 60, 75 yards worth of receptions and passing. And so he's had back-to-back games of over 200 yards, Vince, and that's extremely, extremely rare. It just does not happen. And the fact that this the backup, the supposed backup, but now the question is, Vince, do you sit the starter when he comes back and he's healthy and let the backup, because he's doing something that rarely has ever happened in the history of the NFL?
Yeah. See, I was when you started to say that, I thought to myself, it sounds to me like maybe time to reconsider some roles here. At least while the guy's hot, why not just let him keep going and see what happens? I mean, I personally, if I'm even if I were rejected in the process, that's what I would be saying. I'd be saying, go for it. Take it for the team.
I mean, last week he was the offensive player of the week, and he's probably going to be the offensive player of the week again this week. For like, I don't mean like Panthers. I mean like the NFL.
For the NFL, right?
Yeah. So I don't know when Chuba Hubbard is scheduled to come back, but I don't know how you put Chuba Hubbard back in the starting lineup. What he's done, which is said, it's not that he's just having good games; he's having historical
Extraordinary
games.
games.
Exactly, they're historical, and
Mm-hmm.
so I don't know what you do. I know what I would do, but I'm not getting paid $5 million a year to coach.
Exactly.
I'm only getting paid $5 million to be on WBT, Vince.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, I am curious too. Are you a big Panthers fan, or I mean, you can confess if you have another team. It's
So,
okay,
in the world of sports, like you're not supposed to have any favorites, right? Because I was a sports reporter for 27 years.
right?
But I grew up a huge, and I'm going to use the team names as I grew up with them. But Steelers and the Redskins were my two teams. Like they were my favorite two teams. And the Panthers, I was never like a fan of the Panthers because I was covering them on a daily basis, even in their first year, their inaugural season. And when they went to the playoffs and all that, and they beat Dallas at Bank of America Stadium, I was covering that game. I was a young reporter covering that game. And so I've never really thought to myself, oh, I hope they win. I hope they lose. I mean, here's what I've always said. Same thing with the Hornets. Same thing with the Tar Heels, Duke, NC State, because I was covering them being professional and didn't necessarily have an allegiance to either one of them, any of them. But here's what I've always said. When the Hornets do well or when the Panthers do well, even if you don't like football, even if you don't like the NBA, there's a different vibe about the city. There's a different,
Mm-hmm.
like even people who go to work, who maybe live in Still Creek or Matthews or Gastonia or whatever, there's just a different vibe when they're doing extremely well.
Yep.
And people tend to be excited, like I said, even if it's just at work or you're at a restaurant and you start talking to people. Inevitably, the conversation will always go back to the Hornets or the Panthers if they're doing extremely well. Now, the Hornets haven't done extremely well in 30 years, but in terms of the Panthers, like we know what it was like when they went to the Super Bowl a few years ago, or I should say 8 years ago.
Yeah, it's an incredible atmosphere, and it's kind of cool when you have this. When you have anything that's positive that goes on with the team. Joel says, if you told me after the first four games the Panthers would be 3-3 after 6 games, I would have been shocked. And I think a lot of people were in that same place. They're very surprised, pleasantly surprised. I think for a lot of people, I'm not a big sports fan, but I know enough to recognize, what a surprise it is. And what I did is, and I think a lot of people do this, they kind of manage their expectations. They came to the conclusion, okay, we've kind of hit rock bottom, and we're going to have to it's going to take some period of time before we're able to build the team to a point where it's going to be a team that we can be proud of. So I think people have already kind of adjusted their expectations, but I would dare say that this season so far has exceeded people's expectations. I mean, wouldn't you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, not only most people's expectations, but it's also so far as exceeding Las Vegas expectations. Because I think before the year started, Las Vegas had them, I think, at 5.5 wins, I believe, for the season. If you wanted to bet that they would have more than 5 wins or less than 5 wins. So, but yeah, so I mean, again, it's only 6 games, and a lot can happen over the last, over the last 11 games. But right now, I mean, they're 3-0 at home and 0-3 on the road. But again, they're playing well, and a lot of people saw that today. So that's it's good to see them. I want to switch real quick, Vince.
Okay.
So I called you this all last week, and I called you this like leading up to this week. So for the last 10 days, when we're promoing and Talktoberfest like we do, we have to preview it. The most mysterious man in Charlotte is Charlotte City Manager Marcus Jones, because he just never talks to anybody. No one hardly knows anything about him. I've called you the second most mysterious man in Charlotte.
Second most mysterious. Okay.
I find you so mysterious because you've got this great rich history in broadcasting, and yet I seem to know so little about you, and we've worked together for 7 years. So I just had my 7-year anniversary in September, and I still seem to know so little about you, because I don't go to the station that often, except for one, like my show at night when I get there at 5:55 p.m. for a 6 o'clock show. But but I don't know. I know a lot about everyone, but to me, you're like this mysterious figure.
Ha ha! Hey, it could be that ignorance is bliss. uh, yeah, that is kind of interesting. I don't know how quite how to respond to that. I guess I can prompt you to ask specific questions.
Well,
That
I'd love to actually. And these are just all off the top of my head. I had no idea I was even going to say that to you. So I'm curious because I know what it was like even when I wasn't following politics, because I did not follow politics. True story. I've told this story many times. When they hired me at WBT, I had never heard the name Tom Tillis or Richard Burr. I didn't know who my congressman was. I barely had heard the name Vilaus, maybe. Like I just was so knee deep in sports. I didn't. Politics wasn't anything that I cared about. I knew the governor, the president, all that, but still. So, but even then, even in the 90s, even in the 2000s, when I'm doing sports full time, you can see that it always occurred to me that everyone around me was always, all the media, even in sports, they were always like Democrat, left leaning, Democrat. Was it the same way with you in the 90s or 2000s, excuse me, when you're doing TV and just did you notice, and I don't mean just specifically WSOC, but I mean just in general, the Charlotte media, were they left or were they pretty fair down the middle? Because I could tell you newspapers were always left and they've always been left.
Yeah, it's. I think it's safe to say that it's across the board. I don't know what it is about media that draws people on the left end of the spectrum, but it's the same thing. It's kind of funny because there were certain people we would hang out and we would talk about politics. It was almost like a secret club, you know. Those of us who had these views, we kind of talked among ourselves, and I'd say a handful, like 3 or 4 people, like where the TV station where I work. So yeah, it's I don't know how they characterize that, just other than saying, yeah, it's pretty, pretty much a reality. I one of the things I can tell you, and I'm trying to be respectful as I say this, I do think there's a certain amount of work that that it requires to be informed, and I just think maybe one of my easiest answers is that's a product of our educational system. That's the educational system puts out, and especially when you consider when you go to college, you're saturated in this mindset, and even within the journalism departments, that's what is pretty much. And if nothing else, I find there are a lot of people, they don't even know who they are and what they believe, but they will just, it's the path of least resistance to be liberal, because you don't have to think, and you don't have to because everybody else is kind of in on that same mentality, and so you think, okay, this is what people are thinking, I must think that too. And I'm not being insulting by saying that. I'm just saying that just through osmosis, maybe that's where a lot of people are. So before I forget, I do want to answer a question that has been posed by our friend Brett Winterbull, who is joining us. We
Might be
extend.
your friend. I don't assume he's everyone's
Oh! We extend greetings to Brett Winterbull. He raised the question as to what my most challenging interview was, and I would have to say probably the interview that made me the most nervous was when Condoleezza Rice came into town. And just knowing about all of her experience and expertise, and it was just kind of part, this may sound kind of, how should I say this, I overthink things. I'm one of those overthinkers, and so I try to figure out how can I position this that it's going to be, if I were doing this for one of the networks, Fox, or one of the cable news networks, I'd feel a certain comfort of doing that interview and putting a story together. for locally, the people, I never felt really good about doing national stories local because you feel like, I at least felt like you have to dumb things down so much and in such a short period of time. Does that make sense? I know it's kind of,
Yeah, no,
that was my,
because
that was
yeah,
my hardest interview for that
yeah, I
reason.
mean, you have to dumb things down. And I remember I never took a journalism class until after I was already hired at the Charlotte Observer. So I was working at the Charlotte Observer full time and getting a minor in communications at UNCC at the same time, right? Because they'd already hired me because of my sports background and all that. So, but I'd never taken a journalism class. And so I remember one of the very first stories I ever wrote was just the worst story ever written in the history of newspapers. And I wrote it. And it was so bad they couldn't put it in the paper because I'm using cliche after sports cliche. Instead of three-pointer, I'm using the term trifecta. And like it was just awful because rule number one is never use cliches. But the editor at the time, and she wasn't a sports fan, but which actually wound up being a good thing. She was my editor, and she said, you should write your stories so an 80-year-old grandmother can understand them, even if they know nothing about basketball.
That's good.
And I went, that's okay. So from that, she's like, no cliches, and write it so an 80-year-old grandmother can understand it, reading about her grandson, even if she knows nothing about sports. And I went,
That's
okay.
great. That's perfect. Speaking of, your friend Brett Winterble has a question for you.
Okay.
Is how hard is it to interview someone who you like and you have to drill them?
That's a great question. Because it's easy for me to grill people that I don't like, or even maybe I like them but I don't respect them, something to that effect. Like them as a person, but I don't respect the job that they're doing. That is difficult. But at the same time, now that I think about it, I actually think it's easier. And the reason I say it's easier because I think it's easier to ask harder questions because they know that you're not doing it out of place of hate.
They understand your heart.
Yeah, they at least understand that I have to do this. I have to ask these questions, and they understand that it's not out of a place of malice. It's just me doing my job, especially if they like me or I like them. They understand that this is part of it, and I have to do that, as opposed to someone who I may not like or who definitely doesn't like me, CMS. And so, when I ask those questions, they may automatically go, "Oh, it's Brett because it's CMS, and this is who Brett is, and this is why we don't like him, and this is why Brett doesn't like us." So I actually think it's easier to ask harder questions for people that I like, but I may like asking the harder questions to the people I generally don't like or don't respect.
That makes a lot of sense. I can certainly see.
Like I can't wait to ask this question. I can't wait.
I have been asked by Joel what my favorite moment is that I participated in broadcast TV. Oh my goodness, that's a difficult one. Moment. I'm going to have to think on that one, Joel, and I'll get back with you on that one sometime during the course of the broadcast.
Let me ask you a question, Vince, since I'm still interviewing you, the second most mysterious man in Charlotte. When you were growing up, did you always want to be a broadcaster, a news guy? Like when I was 15 and my grandparents would say, "Well, what do you want to be when you grow up?" My answer was always, "I want to be Howard Cosell. I want to be the next Howard Cosell."
This is Howard Cosell.
Right. Like him or hate him, because he was very polarizing. Everyone knew who he was. He was the richest man on television, and he did all the biggest games. My goal was to be the next Howard Cosell. So was it always your goal to be in broadcasting?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it was kind of interesting because there was kind of a parallel universe thing going on because there are two directions I could have gone. One would have been in the broadcasting realm. The other would have been in some realm of ministry. And so but to give you an idea of how crazy it was for me, when my sister went off to college, I took over her room and turned it into a broadcast studio. And I pretended to do the news. I pretended to do the weather. I set up a board with an Indiana map. At the time, we were in Indianapolis. And I had put scotch tape over the map so that I could put the temperatures in and change them. I mean, I was very much, very much into the whole news, television broadcast thing. And so it was just kind of a natural transition to actually do this stuff. So yeah, it's been there for a long time. And that goes back to Indianapolis. That goes way back to at least 79. It would have been earlier than then. So
how old were you?
And at 79, I was 14.
Oh, thank God you didn't say 27. Okay. So
yeah, exactly. So yeah, that was a teenage thing. That went back for a long time. So there you go. It was.
See, I'm learning more and more about the mysterious Vince Coakley.
Oh gosh, yeah. It's. Oh no, Brett is trying to. We should make Brett join us for this.
I got no problem with that. He's the life of the party.
You should jump right in, Brett Winterbull. He's saying
Nick email Winterbull the link. That'll be good.
He said if I could interview anyone today in the whole world, who would it be? Anybody in the world. Wow.
I would be Putin. That's who I want to interview. Putin.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
When they always say, name the 3 people or 4 people that you'd want to have dinner with or whatever, and like I would love to have dinner with Hitler, Putin, and Stalin. Like those 3, I would love, because it's boring to interview the angels or the good people of the world. It's boring to interview Mother Teresa. I want to interview the psychopaths.
What makes you tick? Why are you the way you are? That makes sense.
Yeah. I just think their stories would be fascinating, as opposed to, like, again, I'm not like trying to bag on Mother Teresa or Pope or Billy Graham. I mean, Billy Graham was Billy Graham was an interesting character, very interesting. But at the same point, like the crazy people are the ones that I find interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yep, you're absolutely. I know we could go in very interesting directions with this thing, but we recently watched the Ed Gein story on Netflix, and
I haven't seen it yet. I saw it, but it's in my list, but I haven't seen it yet.
I don't want to give you any spoiler here, but I will tell you one of my takeaways of this after watching it. At the very end, as crazy as it sounds, I found myself feeling sorry for this guy. Because, there's a determination, as you probably know, that this guy was, mentally off his rocker. Right. So it's just, but I get exactly what you're saying. There's a fascination we have with the aberrant, with that which is off the tracks, and we want to understand why. Why did this person do this? Whatever atrocious and monstrous things that they engaged in. And I fully get it. There's that's a lot more interesting than playing and it's I get it.
Good is boring. And I know that sounds horrible. I know it sounds horrible. But good is boring, and I've always found it boring. And I've always said, people go, "Oh, Brett, would you be interested in doing the story on this?" I'm like, I don't care about the dog that can climb a tree or the one-armed baseball player. Like I mean, I like the I just like the news of it all, or the seminal moments or major things that are happening. And I just find that's what I really like, whether it's being out in the middle of the protests or in the middle covering a political race or whatever it is. I find that way more interesting because it impacts day-to-day life as opposed to a dog that can climb a tree.
Yeah, I do fully understand what you're saying. I do have a lot of questions about things like that. And it's probably one of the reasons why these investigative stories, for instance, are so appealing, and why people love to watch these. And yeah, I'll bet those are getting better numbers than, as you described, the story of Mother Teresa.
Well, I mean, you know this. I mean, you've been in the news for a
If
long
it
time. You know,
bleeds, it leads.
that's right. I was gonna say but that saying has been around for 150 years. It's not something new. I mean, that saying's been around for 150 years because it's been the same for 150 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we tend to gravitate. And, I remember years ago, I had people have along the way, they've asked me, why don't you guys do more, when I was in television, why don't you do more good news stories? And this is before you got here, Brett, but I remember a local station, they tried that. They did family sensitive news. And without saying, it was the number 3 station here in this market. And their ratings got worse than they were before. They dropped.
Oh, wow.
And it didn't surprise me because people, they want to hear. I mean, interestingly enough, I hanging out with a friend of mine and got roped into watching. And I think this also precedes you, the Henry Louis Wallace story about the serial killer here in Charlotte.
I was at the Charlotte Observer at the time.
Oh, okay. Okay. So it's one of those things where, there's a fascination with that. And you can do a whole series on things like that. But yeah, there's something about human nature that we are attracted to things that are off.
Well, and think about it this way. All the movies that were on Lifetime or Oxygen or whatever, there are always these bad stories about how, a woman is being beaten by her husband or the what's all the all the crime shows that are on on CBS or NBC, the Dateline and all that stuff. Like
48 hours.
Right, exactly. 48 Hours, Dateline. There's a reason why those shows are so successful, and they've been on for 40 years.
You're exactly right. It's just part of what is in our appetite as human beings for whatever reason. Joe would like to know what about interviewing Kim Jong-un? That would go into that category. You would jump right on that opportunity.
In 2 seconds. Now, I'd have to make sure it wasn't in North Korea because I'd probably never come home if it was in North Korea. But yeah,
I'm sure that would be a one-way trip to the guillotine or something like that.
Right. Hey, speaking of which, let me ask you a question. So I know I said no news, but that's a great segue. Maybe a little bit of a morbid topic, but it's still a segue. They just passed the arena bill, and Governor Stein just signed it and everything, but it now includes parts of the death penalty to try and reactivate it.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious. They're talking about firing squad, and there was talks about maybe even doing hanging again. I think Utah was the last state to actually hang someone, and I think it happened in our lifetime. But what do you think about the firing squad and the electric chair and, they called Old Sparky and the gas chamber and all that? Like, what are your thoughts about that?
I think I think the best way to execute somebody, boy, it sounds like a weird thing to say, doesn't it? As long as it's humane and ideally humane and quick. I mean, that as crazy as it sounds with something like the guillotine, I mean, that's pretty quick, it's.
I had to do my physical a month ago, my annual physical. And so I'm in there and I'm talking to the physician. I said, let me ask you a question about this bill. So I asked him, I said, if you are in a firing squad and they hit your heart like they did in South Carolina, I said, if they hit you, do you feel it? And he said, no. He said, once the bullet hits your heart explodes and you die instantaneously on impact. You don't feel a thing. You die instantaneously.
There you go. I mean, that's the way I'd want to go. Make sure it's a good kill shot, that it happens very, very quickly. I think that's where most people would be on this. We want to thank you, by the way, for joining us for Talktoberfest 2025. I'm Vince Coakley along with Brett Jensen. And we, along the way, are getting some questions that are being raised. I believe it was Andrew. If you can put that up, Nick. Andrew raised the question: who is your favorite person to work with at WSOC? I know I can get myself in trouble for saying this because I could leave some other people out. But I would probably have to say one of my favorite people was Steve Udelson, the weather guy.
Mm-hmm.
Steve was just a great guy. In fact, he just retired. Was that this year or last year? But yes, Andrew, that is the answer to your question. I very much appreciate working with Steve. Good guy.
I will tell you, were you there with Debbie Fabian?
Yes.
I had the biggest crush on her all through the 80s and 90s.
You're not the only one. You are not the only one. Got that all the time.
And I will tell you, one of my biggest thrills, it's when you find people that are starting to follow you on Twitter and stuff like that. My claim to fame is that I have Kathy Ireland following me on Twitter, and she's a conservative, but she follows me on Twitter, and I always get, I was like, that's right, I got Kathy Ireland. but no, it was back in 2017, 2018. I guess it was 2018. Bill Walker started following me on Twitter, and it was just like the heavens opened up. And it's like the voice of God is now following me on Twitter.
Yeah, that is pretty cool when you have these names on there. It's like, oh, I feel somewhat important now. Yeah, it's cool when I see those on there where it says you follow each other, and I think, oh, that's pretty cool experience.
I always liked the person that helped me out the most when I got to WBT, and again, knew nothing about anything when it came to news or politics. Mark Becker helped me out so much.
I can believe it. Oh, Mark and Suzanne are wonderful people. Yeah, known those two for years, and yeah, that's no surprise whatsoever. I'm thinking of another favorite subject of ours: pets.
Yeah.
That's something cool to talk about, right?
Yeah. Well, and it's funny, we were talking about good stories and no one follows good stories or no one reads it. We did this. They've done all these studies. Remember back in the day when you had paper racks, right? You go to, if you saw a paper out, if a paper rack, where you put in your 25 cents and you would take out the paper, or the 50 cents and you would take out the paper, like the paper racks, right? Well, you'd always only see the top half of the newspaper above the fold, right? And they did all these studies that if you put an animal story above the fold where people could see the headlines, the papers would sell 300% faster.
You're kidding.
Because people were interested in animal stories, and they still are. And so, it's, I lost Maggie June 6th. Was after 16 years and 1 week to the day, lost Maggie, my golden retriever.
Yeah.
Pat Cotham called her the most famous dog in North Carolina. And, but it was, but yeah, so it's been quiet around the house, Vince. It's quiet. That was the hardest part, getting used to, thinking I need to get home and feed her or take her out. Then you realize, oh, actually, I don't have to get home immediately anymore. But it's just the quietness of the house. That's the hardest part getting used to.
Are you thinking about getting another one?
The last year and a half, 2 years with Mags was a little difficult. And so I need a break. I needed a break because there were some health issues and, off and on with her kidney disease. And so it was I need a break. But I definitely will be getting another dog, but it may be a year and a half, 2 years down the road.
Yeah, I fully understand. Yeah, I'm in a very strange place now. I have a 13-and-a-half-year-old Siberian Husky, and she very gingerly gets around. It's kind of sad to watch her. And I didn't really notice how slow she is until I brought this little terrorist into the house. And she's But the big story, the one that really grabs all the attention, I probably told you I got this miniature pinscher. I should bring her in here. But she is rotten to the core. Just uh, absolutely lovable dog. And found out 2 or 3 months ago she has diabetes, and so started trying to get her sugar levels adjusted to just the right place. And so we're still in process of trying to do that. It's challenging. And as a result, she also went blind because she has glaucoma now. So for now, it's pretty weird to have a blind dog walking around the house. Sometimes she'll run into something. It's kind of comical in a way. She hadn't hurt herself, but there are times it's like, oh, poor thing, she just ran into a wall. But she's done remarkably well, but very anxious to get those levels adjusted, and then she's going to need cataract surgery. I mean, I did not even realize dogs could get diabetes. And
yeah, as a matter of fact,
surgery.
Yeah. Well, that's why I tell everyone, Vince. I tell everyone, and I've never gotten paid, and as I'm doing it more for the animals, get pet insurance. Like, we have pet insurance through our company. And Maggie, the last 3 years of her life, probably saved me. Oh, I maxed it out every year, so she saved me $30,000 just in using pet insurance than I would have. Because my whole argument, Vince, was I'd rather pay the $45 a month, or Maggie's last year of her life was $225 a month, but it covered everything. It covered whether or not she had cancer and chemo, and it covered everything. Even when the vet came to put her down, the insurance covered everything like that. With her, that was $1,100, and the insurance covered every bit of it. So, but I tell everyone, I never wanted money to be a deciding factor for a surgery or healthcare for my dog. I never wanted the vet go, well, Brett, it's only 50-50 whether or not the surgery will help, and the surgery is going to be $3,000. I never wanted money to be the issue.
Right.
And so I got pet insurance, and I tell everyone, again, I've never got paid, never got an endorsement, but it's the easiest address in the history of the world. Petinsurance.com. That's easy. Petinsurance.com, and it's owned and operated by Nationwide Insurance.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So like our health insurance, Vince, is through Nationwide. If we get pet insurance through the company, it's through Nationwide, and it's called petinsurance.com. You can get free quotes, and that alone, just the last 3 years, saved me $30,000.
And part of the challenge now is she has a pre-existing condition.
Yeah.
So things related to this are not going to be covered, but it's a good reminder. And in fact, I'm making note of this right now. So you're good for something there. That statement has not been used very often. Well, you're good for something. I usually don't hear that. I couldn't resist. Let's see. Insurance.com. Okay. Wanted to make sure, because I know my memory is not the best in the world. So I can make sure that I follow through on that when it's open enrollment time, right?
That's right. That's right.
Perfect time to jump in on that. So
yeah, and when we go through our open enrollment and all that stuff at work, they'll have, do you want pet insurance? And then you'll see, then you just fill out how old's the dog, or how old your 2 dogs, 3 dogs, whatever you want. You just fill it out, and it'll automatically come up. Okay, your monthly premium is $41 a month, or whatever it is.
Okay.
So
great. Terrific.
How old's your min pin?
She, in fact, just turned 3.
Oh, okay.
Just turned 3. I really should have her come in here, because you would get this dog she is a ham, just an absolute ham. Loves attention. And
is she a talk show host on WBT?
She should get her own show. The funny thing about it too, they're not, in terms of their lineage, they're not related to the Doberman. They look a lot like them, but they're not related. But it's funny, if you were to see her posture, and the way she behaves, she thinks she's one. She thinks she's a big 100-pound dog. So I'm requesting that someone release her into the room so I can just give her a brief appearance here. But yeah, Talktoberfest 2025 is underway. You're with Vince Coakley and Brett Jensen as we continue our interaction here. And we've been talking about all kinds of things, talking about pets. And I know one of the things that you talked about, we can become kind of weary of talking about politics and that sort of thing. Okay, I think our opportunity has presented itself before I
All right, here we go.
Let me have the little monster so I can just show the audience what we are dealing with. This is Dixie.
And you're saying there's no relation at all?
No relation between this and the
Doberman? Really?
Yeah, they're not. And they've done side-by-side comparisons that show that, how their structure is a little bit different. But it's funny because you look at them, the colors and everything, they look very much alike. So say hello to Brett over there. Can you hello, look that way? Not like you can actually look.
So, I was going to say, Dixie can't see me anyway. So, yeah.
I'm going to put her down, and she is let me excuse her because she's bored by my presence. You can have her back now.
That's funny. That's funny.
I thought you'd be entertained by
that. I love it.
The funny thing is I've never had, in fact, to be honest with you, I've kind of had a predisposition against little dogs because I always had this perception of these dogs yapping and being annoying and obnoxious and nipping at people's heels.
Right there with you.
So
right there with you.
It's very unusual. It's very different to actually have a dog. And I've really come to appreciate her that she's actually been. There's something about, one of my favorite bumper stickers. It's the more people I meet, the more I love my dog.
Mm-hmm.
100%
right.
I very much embrace that. It's a message that's right on the money. And I think as I get older, I think that appreciation grows because they're such loyal. I mean, one of the most neatest experience to me is just to come home sometimes, and I lay down on my bed, and Dixie will just come up, and she will literally lay down on my chest and put her head on my face, on the side of my face, and just rest there. I mean, there's something about the genuineness of love of a dog, that a loyal dog that just I'm gonna have you running out and getting a dog now.
Well, I guess I had Maggie for 16 years.
That's a long time.
Yeah, for a golden retriever, and their average lifespan's about 11. So, but it's, to be with that point, Vince, I prefer animals over 99% of the people that I've ever met. People annoy me so much. And by the way, why does it seem like everyone that annoys me on the road is driving a Subaru? That's the other thing. They all drive Subarus and they annoy the hell out of me.
I can really stir it up by saying that most of the time when I see people do something stupid on the road, I notice that they have license plates from another state that I dare not mention right now. But it drives me. That's probably one of the biggest tests of my character. It's driving. When I get on the road and just the dumb things that people do day after day. I remember my dad growing up. He would always say, there's not a single day that passes by that I don't have to take evasive action to avoid hitting somebody, and it is so true. They're just,
it's just, and then they always are in the same certain type of cars. It's always a Subaru that annoys me. I'm just like, there are a couple other cars, but primarily it's a Subaru. If I see a Subaru, I probably already hate you before I've even met you.
But you know what? especially along the lines of where we were talking about our thing with pets. They have the best commercials.
Mm,
You remember they have those? They always have dogs in commercials driving cars.
yeah, yeah.
And one of my favorite ones, I don't know if you remember this from a few years ago. They had one where they were showing this. Of course, this is no big deal now, but they were showing how you could look up something on a map and you could send it to your car. So you could, that's no big deal now. It's all integrated. But the woman was taking her dog to the vet, and the dog is sitting in the back with the little girl, and the girl looks on the screen and she says, "Mom, what's neutering?" And the dog goes, "Ooh," and jumps out of the car.
That's okay.
They
That's
have
good.
whoever came up with their commercials, Subaru's advertising campaign. But it goes back to what you said about selling newspapers. Animals sell. They sell.
They do.
That's
I mean,
the way.
think about it. Think about like the Budweiser commercials where
Yes.
you have the horses and the Clydesdales, like during the
Yes.
Super Bowl, and you've always got Super Bowl commercials with tons and tons of animals in them.
Yes.
Regardless, it could be any brand, anything. It could be Apple, it could be whatever, Coca-Cola, and there's going to like Coca-Cola had the big white polar bear, and like there's just for during Christmas time, like there's just animals. People like animals, and people don't like people. Or maybe that's a Brett Jensen thing. I don't know.
Christelle would like to know what logo is on your hat. She's wondering whether that's Carolina.
So the way I'm looking at the camera, I believe the words are flip-flopped just because of the way the camera is on my phone. But
now I see it.
Titleist. It's a golf brand. Yeah, it's a golf brand. But the Carolina Blue matches the Carolina Blue PGA Championship. Like I said, I think the lettering's backwards, but it matches. It matches.
Yes, that works. Question answered. So yeah, that
again, it's all about fashion, Vince. It's all about the fashion.
Yeah, is that a big thing for you?
Yes. Yeah, it actually is. It's yeah, I don't know why, but I think I know why, but I don't need to get into the whole psychological things from the 7th and 8th grade. But it is but yeah, no, looking well, even when you're bumming or whatever, still looking like you're still put together, even if you're just wearing an oversized sweatshirt, making sure the sweatshirt's the right way, and the pants or the shoes or the hat or whatever. Yeah.
Right.
It's just like I genuinely care how I'm presented in public and have since the 8th grade.
Right.
It literally started in the 8th grade.
And that's very appropriate for Charlotte's most eligible bachelor. So you knew at some point somebody was going to target you in that fashion anyway. So that puts a target on your back all the time, I'm sure.
It's been a while, but yes.
Yeah, it's and in all seriousness, is there a certain pressure that you feel in that kind of situation from standpoint? Oh my goodness. I need to send someone very loud out, but let me finish my question before I do.
Okay.
Is there a certain pressure you feel and attention you feel because of that, being the single guy in the spotlight? Does that?
No, well, I mean, so the article was written back in mid 2000s, excuse me, mid 2010s, like 2015, somewhere in there. Charlotte Magazine or whatever, and it was when I was doing the Hornets pregame shows with Steve Martin, Del Curry, Stephanie Reddy. I was on radio. I was at foxsports.com as a writer, and that's, I believe, when the article came out. And there were like 8 of us, and I would think it was like one of the most 8. I was one of the 8 eligible bachelors, and so that's how that actually came out. And it's only because I was on doing the Hornets pregame show on TV and radio and stuff like that. But no, I mean, never felt a pressure. Like I will tell you immediately that first year, I'd have a lot of people reaching out to me asking me if I want to be part of like a charity auction, like where they would auction me off or whatever, like the Guys and Dolls, cystic fibrosis, and all that stuff. Other than that, but no, I mean, now that I'm old and faded, nobody cares. So I probably need to take that off the bio. I put it on the bio just because I thought it was funny. Because I'm like, me of all dumb people, like it's kind of ironic that it would be me. That's the way I felt of it. But no, but I will tell you, but people know that I'm single. So like when I will go to events or whatever, it's always, hey, Brett, I got this friend. Have you met so-and-so? Have you met so-and-so?
Yeah.
And so, because I've never made a secret about it on radio, I've always thought I would just be brutally honest about it and tell the stories of like the crazy funny days that have gone horribly wrong or whatever. And so no, because I always think like even bad dates are funny. And so I like funny. And so I'm more than happy to tell them on air, talk about them on air. But no, but even to this day, if I go to a political event, somebody will mention, or I go to a news event or somebody like that, someone will say, hey, she's single over there. She's single. You should go talk to her. So I still get that though, but it's not because I was named one of Charlotte's most eligible bachelors, 9 years ago, or I guess 10 years ago now.
Yeah. I always think of that in the context of, I think of the season of my life before getting married when I was at, especially in church circles, because, most of the people are paired up either as married couples or as dating. And so, you're always in the spotlight and people are, they've got some contribution to make there. So,
well, and Mark Garrison will be the first one to remind everyone on the air that I'm still single.
Yeah, exactly. Isn't it wonderful? In the last couple of minutes we have here, is there anything that you'd like to perhaps preview as we go into this week, and things that may be coming up on the Brett Jensen show, Breaking with Brett Jensen?
So Thursday, early voting starts across the county for the municipal elections. However, so it starts Thursday, but for the first week, you can only vote at the Hal Marshall Center in Uptown. So if you live in Cornelius, the only place you can early vote for the first week is in Uptown Charlotte. And considering everything that's been going on in Uptown over the last year or two, there's just wait until it comes to your end of the neck of woods. Like, so I believe it's either the 23rd or the 24th. It goes through the rest of the county up and through November 4th. But early voting does start. Like I said, I doubt anyone's going to want to vote early from Davidson in Uptown Charlotte for the first week. But I believe it's either the 23rd or the 24th is when it opens up to the rest of the county. And so I'll be doing a lot of politician interviews, people that are running once early voting starts. So like on Wednesday, I'll have James Bowers, who's running in Charlotte City Council District 3. I'll have him on air. I'll also have Krista McCrory, part 2 of my interview with her. That'll be on Wednesday, again, the day before early voting starts. And then I'll be hitting a lot of the other candidates across not just Charlotte, but like whether it's Mint Hill or Matthews or Huntersville. A lot of interesting things going on in Huntersville where people just, one of the current board members just resigned on the spot for the Huntersville Town Council, just resigned on the spot. And so Democrats swept Huntersville, swept every position 2 years ago. So is that going to happen this time around? So it won't be just Charlotte centric. It will be Mecklenburg County centric.
Terrific. Definitely something to look forward to. And hey, this has been absolutely awesome. So hopefully this last hour has removed some of the mystery that has surrounded me.
The world's most interesting man, Vince Coakley. There used to be a beer commercial about that. So there you go.
Gosh. That would be a boring commercial. But we absolutely appreciate the fact that you have joined us for this particular time on Talktoberfest 2025. And this is just the beginning. Saturdays, Sundays, right? The rest of the month of October.
And October 29th. Don't forget October 29th, our News and Brews.
News and Brews. Go online, wbt.com, and you can sign up and purchase your tickets there. And we look forward to seeing you in person there on the 29th, right? 29th of October. And we will be glad to see you there. So for now, for Brett Jensen and myself, Vince Coakley, Ron Andrews, thanks for joining us today. Thank you for your kind comments. And all of you, have yourselves an awesome week, and God bless you. Adios.